In Argentina, Senate approved the income tax reform proposed by Minister and presidential candidate Sergio Massa. In Pakistan, authorities confirmed that a suicide bomb attack on religious gathering killed more than 50 people. In Niger, the Pan-Africanist leader Kemi Seba called for the liberation of the African people from the neo-colonialism of the Western powers in mass action held in the French base in Niamey. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Ana Razabal from the TeleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. On Thursday, the president of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, asked the Colombian authorities to coordinate joint actions to tackle illegal mining that affects both nations. The Venezuelan head of state made these statements during the 18th anniversary of the Strategic Operational Command of the Bolivarian National Armed Force. The president congratulated the military forces for successfully concluding the so-called Operation Autana in Yapacana National Park in the state of Amazonas. The Venezuelan president reiterated his call to the Colombian government to work together and eradicate illegal mining in the Amazon region.
Where do these mafias operate? Exactly inside Colombia. Because we have to coordinate well with the Minister of Defense, with the Colombian Public Force, because we have to tell the Colombian Public Force, the Minister of Defense, that they have to accompany us in this battle, because they come from Colombia to destroy the Venezuelan Amazon, to destroy nature, the rivers, to enrich themselves. Mafias that go against the Venezuelan state, against the Colombian state.
In Brazil, the Senate plenary approved the bill that sets the temporary framework for indigenous lands. The bill was approved on Wednesday during plenary session with 43 votes in favor and 21 against. This initiative states that the indigenous people will only be able to claim ownership of the areas they occupy permanently before October 5, 1988, the date of the promulgation of the Constitution. The bill is a response to the decision of the Federal Supreme Court, which last Thursday ruled that the temporary framework invoked to stop the demarcation of indigenous territories as contrary to the constitutional framework. Likewise, on Wednesday, the Supreme Court of Brazil decided that the owners of territories overlaid on indigenous lands will receive compensation if the areas are expropriated in favor of the native people. Indigenous organizations pointed out that the proposal is a reward for illegal invaders. They also warned that the breach opened by the Supreme Court will encourage the illegal occupation of lands with public funds, which implies violence against their people. A study by the Agribusiness and Rural Policy Observatory revealed that 95.5% of a list 1,692 overlapping farms on indigenous lands are located in territories pending demarcation. In Brazil, one of Jair Bolsonaro's most trusted aides has struck a plea bargain deal with the federal police and is accusing the former president and all the top-level officials of plotting military coup last November. In Recife, correspondent Brian Meyer has more.
Lieutenant Colonel Mauros said, ex-President Bolsonaro's former personal assistant, has struck a plea bargain deal with the federal police, who have revealed that he is accusing a group of top officials of trying to overturn last year's presidential election results.
What we have heard from Mauros' plea bargain testimony is that a criminal organization was created to orchestrate a coup d'etat, a violent abolition of the rule of law, which didn't just involve Bolsonaro. It also involved former Justice Minister Anderson Torres and General Heleno.
After Sid's allegations went public, President Bolsonaro's former institutional security chief, General Augusto Heleno, was called to Congress to testify. Heleno has a long history of anti-democratic activities dating from the days of the dictatorship, when he worked with General Silvio Frota, leader of a fascist internal faction of the army that disobeyed orders to stop executing political prisoners. Heleno began by claiming Cid had never sat in on meetings between Bolsonaro and military leaders.
Look who's there, in the presidential palace, in a meeting with the defense minister and the commander of the armed forces. There's Mauros Cid right there. And General Heleno said he didn't go to meetings with the commanders of the armed forces. If you'd like, I can pull up the video you just said this.
As the investigation continues, a lot of powerful people in Brasilia are getting nervous over Mauros Cid's deal with the federal police. Brian Mir, TeleSUR, Recife.
With 38 votes in favor and 22 against, the Argentine Senate approved the modification of the income tax, a proposal promoted by the minister and presidential candidate Sergio Massa. After 18 hours of session, the repeal of the fourth category of income tax became law, creating the tax for only those who were more than 15 minimum living wages as of 2024. This initiative creates a new tax on income from a certain amount, together with a progressive tax on the surplus that goes from 27% to 35%. Malta also announced that these actions are for the benefit of the country's economy. With the approval of the law, only income will be taxed with a scheduler tax separate from the determination of the current progressive scale and will not be subject to any other tax. In Argentina, Women's and Diversity Collective marched to commemorate the Global Day of Action for Access to Legal, Safe and Free Abortion. The mobilization is called for 4 p.m. local time from Plaza de Mayo to the Congress under the slogan "Freedom is ours" and will be repeated in various provinces. The march will also be against the right-wing or ultra-right parties, pointing out that if they win the presidency, it would mean the loss of several rights for the community. And now we go back to Spain, where Argentine women also take a stand against the advance of the extreme right in their country in view of the upcoming elections in October. Argentine women in Spain set their position against the advance of the extreme right wing in view of the upcoming October elections. Within the framework of the Global Day of Action for Legal, Safe and Accessible Abortion, they defend their democratic freedoms such as the right to organize and mobilize for their rights and a decent future. The demonstrators expressed their concern for the rise of these political phenomena and highlighted the need to continue to struggle to maintain rights conquered. And they also described the extreme right as a real threat for the conquest of the women's movements around the world. Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at TeleSUR English. We'll find news in different formats, new dates, and more. Other studies coming up, stay with us. Welcome back. The Spanish people united in consideration, support, and solidarity with the territory of Western Sahara to evaluate the current situation so that the land still in disputes is respected. The Spanish population has asked the European Union that the next fishing agreements with the government of Morocco do not include the water of the Western Sahara. The United Nations has qualified these lands as non-self-governing following the decolonization processes that have taken place in the 70s when the country was invaded by Moroccans.
What we want is that the European Union respects us, that its delegates leave our fishing until we get our independence. And we will do with it what we want because it is unjust what they are doing to us. They are stealing our wealth and they are in agreement with the government of Morocco about our country.
In the next agreement that the European Union makes with Morocco, leave out the Western Sahara. The Western Sahara is not Morocco. It is an independent state that still remains to be decolonized, and it is Spain's responsibility to make that decolonization happen.
In the Netherlands, several people were killed and many injured in two guns attacks in the city of Rotterdam. A man shot at a house where a woman and her children were staying. Another similar incident occurred at the Erasmus University Medical Center. The shooter also shot at a group of people in a sick room. The assailant set fire to a floor of the hospital before being arrested by authorities on the building's helipad. On Thursday, the Italian Council of Ministers approved two measures to fight the current migration crisis in the region. According to a communiqué, the agency informed that within the norms of the initiative, the norms related to the special procedure for the processing of the request for international protection were modified. The measure establishes that if the request for asylum is repetitive, the police commissioner may proceed with the deportation of migrants from the national territory. Greece Fire Department reported on Thursday that hundreds of people were rescued from floods due to the new storm that hit the country just after floods left 17 people dead. According to authorities, emergency services assisted more than 250 people in the region surrounding the central city of Mauros, where a curfew was declared on Wednesday as Storm Elias made landfall. The atmospheric event also hit the island of Euboea, causing emergency traffic restrictions in the north of the island.
Only this week, they finished cleaning from Storm Daniel. Yesterday, it started raining from noon, but we thought it was a small shower. We didn't expect the embankment to rake again and to flood the area. This is what happened. We are back to square one.
And we go now to Moscow, where the Rostech International Forum was held at the Russian Academy of Science. At this event, environmental protection from harmful emission was one of the main topics addressed by participants. What other topics were discussed? TV Brief reporter Vasily Kuyusev brings us all the details.
One of the main topics of the Rostech International Forum held in Moscow at the Russian Academy of Sciences was environmental protection from harmful emissions. According to the participants of the meeting, environmental safety issues are becoming more and more important in the context of global growth of industrial production.
Production of pharmaceutical substances is one of the most harmful industries. A lot is being done in this direction, as if we need medicines, but we should not, as doctors say, cure one thing and cripple another. Here, pharma manufacturers must be responsible.
Farooq Mir is a representative of one of several tens of thousands of large Indian pharmaceutical companies. Almost every one of them, Farooq says, has its own factories, which have been under close government control for many years. The responsibility of the business owners themselves plays an important role in reducing emissions.
We have treatment units at all of our plants for every emission. As I said, this process is mandatory now so that these industries do not cause global pollution and global disasters.
In Africa, as Seneve Kinfu, president of the Union of African Diasporas in Russia, says, drought remains one of the main environmental problems. Here, according to a forum participant, the technology used in Russia during public holidays could be useful.
We need to attract technologies that allow us to disperse rain, to attract clouds. We remember how they dispersed the cloud before May 9 in Moscow. You can call there is such technology. Many countries have such technology, but Africans are not using it much yet.
Another important topic discussed by Rostech participants was modern methods of analyzing air and water conditions.
At the Faculty of Physics, we are developing a device for early diagnosis and monitoring of pollution. This is based on scanning probe microscopy. The probe microscope can detect tiny impurities in pure water.
The experience of cooperation between Bryan's State University and the government of Vietnam can be considered interesting and productive, meeting participants say. According to Vu Cach Nguyen, advisor to the President of the Republic, several years ago, Russian scientists helped launch a project in Vietnam to grow fruits, vegetables, and other crops without soil. Today, according to Nguyen, the farmers involved in the experiments can already boast a good harvest.
Thanks to technology from our friends in Russia, we are growing not only potatoes, orange and pomelos, but also rice and coffee. We can use agricultural land more efficiently and save water.
Rostech has become a platform for business negotiations. On the margins of the forum, developers of innovative products in the field of environmental protection were able to meet directly with industrialists and investors.
We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at TeleSUR English, where you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, sub-stories, special broadcastings, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world more recent events. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back. In Pakistan, authorities confirmed on Friday that a suicide bomb attack on a religious gathering to commemorate the Prophet Muhammad's birthday left more than 50 people dead. City police station official Muhammad Javed added that in addition to the half of 100 dead, more than 100 people are also reported injured. The explosion took place in the Mastung district as worshippers were preparing for a procession near the mosque. In a sense, Mohammed Javed also confirmed no group has claimed responsibility for the attack so far. The incident is the second explosion to take place in Mastung this month at a time of rising violence. And on Thursday in Niger, the Pan-Africanist leader Kemi Seba held a multitudinous act next to the French base in Niamey, where he called for the liberation of the people of Africa from the neocolonialism of the Western powers. Thousands of demonstrators gathered in the Nigerian capital for an act of protest called by Kemi Seba, a leader of the organization urging questions of African nationalism and considered one of the spokesmen of the Pan-Africanist movement. Seba, in his speech, called for an end to Western neocolonialism and the overthrow of the president of countries such as Benin, Ivory Coast, and Senegal subordinated to the interests of Europe. He also condemned the sanctions imposed on Niamey and declared that Pan-Africanism is not afraid of these actions that seek to intimidate the search for freedom of the nation of the world. In China, President Xi Jinping reiterated his call for the reunification with Taiwan during a reception dinner at the Great Hall of the People ahead of China's National Day. The Asian giant is set to mark the 74th anniversary of the founding of the People's Republic of China.
We must adhere to the One China principle and the 1992 consensus, promote the peaceful development of cross-strait relations, deepen cross-strait integration and development, safeguard the fundamental interests of the Chinese nation, and enhance the well-being of compatriots on both sides of the Taiwan Strait. Releasing complete reunification of the country is the common aspiration of the people, the trend of the times, and the inevitability of history, which cannot be stopped by any force.
In China, an American-Brazilian startup producing assisted multifunctional tools for people with disability has been seeking out new opportunities in the country. Established in 2015, tech firm key to enable words to provide suitable solutions for people with motor, intellectual, and physical disabilities, and has been developing innovative educational and assistive technology to help with everyday tasks. The company took part in Entrepreneurs High Competition held in Beijing 2 years ago, which was organized by Heckle, a global entrepreneurial brand based in the Chinese capital. After winning acclaim at the events, kids who enable earn the opportunity to register their business in China and tap into the country's low production costs, improve efficiency, and broader market scale.
I went to Shenzhen and also Hangzhou for some manufacturers, and I realized that I need to start doing this made in China. It will be most efficient and low cost. So we can produce more, we can do all of our solution here in China, and we can spread this to the world with a low cost. So we want to make it lighter and rubberized.
And we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Ana Rosabal. Thank you for watching.